So, start off the interview. What year were you born?
1936 in January.
And when you were growing up, what was the community like?
Mesa was a very small area. I came to Mesa, Arizona when I was 2 years old
Okay.
from Tennessee.
And the Mesa of your youth, it was small, but were there like fields or what was the surrounding
the center
area
of Mesa
like?
is a square mile, and there were a lot of businesses downtown. Main Street had a lot of businesses, and it was centered on Main Street, and several hotels were there, and but my mother let me walk everywhere because she wasn't afraid of the people that were around us at that time.
Right. What was like the schools like?
The schools were very good. I lived in walking distance of Mesa High, Lincoln Schools, where I went first and second grades. Then I went to Irving School for third and fourth grade, and then to Lehigh School. And Lehigh, we had to be bused out there, which was about 5 miles, I guess.
Okay.
But it was, the schools were smaller, of course, and that's one of the reasons they bused a group of us out there. And they kept that group together at Lehigh until I was in the 8th grade, and then I had to go to Franklin School for my 8th grade, and it was after the freedom of Lehigh School. Going back to Franklin was tragic to me. It was not friendly. It was too big. We didn't have the freedom that we had in Lehigh, because Lehigh was a country area with horses and cows and a lot of dirt roads. And
So what do you mean by freedom?
oh, we had a lot of freedom in school. That we could we had a big area that we'd go out and have playground, and then we could go out and visit under trees, with our friends during recess. And there was a little ditch ran by the school that we would go out when the teacher wasn't looking and swing over the ditch in tree limbs and things that now teachers would get in trouble. But there was just a lot of freedom there, and the teachers were really good, and each teacher there seemed to know you. Like when we went to Franklin, it was like going to a prison, and it looked like a prison to most of the kids from Lehigh. Then they sold Franklin School. I don't know why they did it, but they sold it to the city of Mesa, and they tore it down, it was a really historic old building in Mesa. But Mesa has a problem with tearing down historic old buildings.
Like, what were the stores like for groceries and stuff?
There was a Safeways on Country Club, and you had to cross Country Club in order to get to the store. And my mother never seemed to worry about my brother and I. We'd go, it's about 2 miles from our house, and we'd ride our bikes to get a loaf of bread. And we'd cross Country Club never knowing that that was dangerous. And since then, Country Club became a dangerous street where a lot of wrecks happened. Then Main Street had what they used to call, when I was a little girl, 5 and 10 stores. They'd be 5, 10, and 15-cent items. And then Newberry's came in, and when Newberry's came in, it was started out as a 5, 10-cent store, but then it became kind of a big store in Mesa. And Penny started out in Mesa, and it moved twice. It moved from its regular store area, which was fairly small, into a big store, which is now Mesa's biggest music store, which is Milano's. And then when Milano's came in, they've been there, it seems like forever, but they've changed the the nature of that street, there now, there was a real nice stationery store right next to it called Strauss. In fact, Strauss, one of the Strauss was the mayor of Mesa. But there were a lot of prominent people in Mesa that came from those first pioneers. And in those early days, I found out that you voted for a city council, and then the city council chose the mayor. So you didn't really have a vote for the mayor in those days, which to me was very interesting, because now the mayor is a highly contested race. In fact, the one that just became our mayor spent over $500,000 to become our mayor. And the mayor doesn't pay that much a year.
And so were there did a lot of people drive, or did you just walk mostly?
We walked a lot of places because usually each family just had one car. And because my dad ran a service station in Chandler, somebody that owed him a lot of money, and Dad finally told him, because my dad was very, very generous, he never really collected from people. He finally told that man that he needed the money. It made the man mad at Daddy, so he came one night, and we lived in a little shack on McDonald Street right next to it was called Calhoun's Lightning Transfer and Storage, where people stored their items like we have all these areas now where people store things. But our car, we always parked it, Dad always parked it in our yard. We didn't have any grass, and he would pull into Calhoun's lot or driveway and then drive up in our yard. Well, this man was so mad at my father that he came and burned our car down, which shook Lightning Transfer and Storage up pretty good, because then we had all kinds of fire department, which they didn't have as many fire trucks as they have today. We're out trying to put that fire out. Well, the inside of the car was burned so badly, there were no seats in it anymore. But my dad couldn't afford a new car, so he drove that car around for a year with no seats in it. So of course our whole family walked everywhere we went.
So what were the fire departments and police departments like when you were
Very,
younger?
very small. In fact, your grandfather got in with, Floyd got in with the wrong crowd, and they had him, they were going to go and steal a radiator or a battery or something. I don't remember the story. When your grandfather was about, I guess, 18. He was out of high school. He graduated when he was 17 and was in college. And this group had Grandpa as the lookout for the police. Well, we had a police chief that was a very, very good man. Took Floyd under his wing, and it wasn't long before your grandfather made a turnaround. He never was really bad. He never did do anything wrong. But the police chief helped him, became a friend, and your grandfather honored him all his life and went on a mission then, turned around in his church work and went on a mission.
What was like water for bathing and stuff like?
Well, in our house we didn't have a hot water tank, so we heated our water on the stove. We had water, and outside was where Mother did the washing. She had an old-fashioned washing machine that had 3 tubs, and we always had plenty of water, but it was a mess because, like I said, we didn't have grass. So when days we did washing, there was always mud everywhere, and it's a wonder none of us were ever shocked, because you'd have to put the clothes in the washer and it would wash them with the soap and it'd be dirty, and then you'd have to run them through these other 3 tubs to get them clean, and then you hung them out by the side of the ditch on Mother's clotheslines. So we had plenty of water, but we just had to learn how to use it, you know. I don't know how she got hot water in the washing machine outside. I often wonder if she just used cold water. That could be why the clothes had to be washed 3 times, or, you know, rinsed 3 times. And the worst part about that old-fashioned washing machine, my little sister Edith, had long, beautiful black hair. She was always the prettiest one. And she was helping Mother wash, and she got her hair caught in the wringer. And they said in those days a lot of people were killed with those wringers. It would break their neck. But Mother got the washer turned off before Edith's head got up to that point. And she didn't lose, all her hair. She just lost quite a bit, but not all of it.
What was your house like?
Well, we found out that even though it was a shack to us, because it had a screen porch, a kitchen, and another screen porch, and a front room, and a real small bedroom. Well, my mother decided that the kitchen, which was real small, and the screen porch should be one room, so she just took the wall down in between them. And when she took the wall down in between them, she found out that in that wall, and I think now about throwing it away, there were all these newspapers that were 1800 newspapers that Mother had, that whoever built the house was probably one of those early pioneers, and they used the newspaper that came out as insulation in that wall. And Mother was mad at the old newspapers and threw them away, which now, knowing from a point of history, those were historic. And then they tore the house down when Cox Communications came in and bought that whole block. And so the house was part of, well, they didn't buy the whole block.
I don't know. Do you want me to
Ace
have the
Hardware
cell phone number?
took over where the theater was.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
So this
Sure.
number is 480.
What our house was like?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
And our bathroom was interesting because it had a tub. Even though we took our water from the kitchen to the bathtub, heated it, the toilet had the tank was in the air, and you pulled a chain to flush the toilet. It was really neat. Now that I'm older, I'd give anything.
Athletes help rescue someone from a shack.
Huh?